Hello and welcome to IB Times TV. I'm Lianna Brinded, Senior Journalist for the International Business Times. Joining me now is possibly one of the busiest people in Milan. It's Philippe Daverio. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for
Well, kicking off, hybrid architecture and design is experiencing a renaissance at the moment. Why do you think that is?
Because great part of our culture is constantly a mixture between different sort of information. We would not be what we are without having been mixing up different experiences. The culture we build up in the Renaissance is the culture of mixing our classical behaviors with what we learned from the Arab world. Inventing contemporary architecture would not have been possible if we wouldn't have had the wonderful experience of mixing up with Japan, sort of buildings we have close to. And it is funny to see them in a mixture of architecture like these, where basically the columns and the place where we are is a typical Renaissance place, and what we put in it is the consequence of all the mixtures we've been doing. Now, it brings to a funny experience. Are we going to have one single silly global style, or are we going to have a culture in which every single element is going to be able to be identified as where it is coming from? That is the question of tomorrow. I think that the mixture, hybridation, is just that point, that you have to recognize the different flavors who are going to build up a sort of a wonderful dish, which is the next tech architecture.
Yeah, and Milan is a perfect place for this because, when we're talking about a global design or intricate separate ones, Milan is a perfect place for it. So what would you say has been some of the most exciting hybrid designs that you've been seeing this week?
I wouldn't say one or the other, but the reality today is not in style, it's in materials. Present reaction is how can we stop a part of the culture of the 20th century, which has been a consumeristic, a consumer culture, and how can we reinvent a relation to architecture as a phenomenon which has to last in the time. We are in a certain way afraid by real estate. We want something for the eternity. We want a relation with nature. That's why we like again wood, we like again marble, we like again all what is a natural material with a capacity to grow up in time, not to be disrupted by time. Patina. We are all seeking for patina. We want again that wonderful, like the place in which we are. It's 500 years old, but it's wonderful because it has been built in materials which are ready to have a dialogue with time. And that's why we are playing again with wood. That's why we are going back to glass. That's why we are going back to ceramics. And that's why also the language of design is not only a sort of a global, international, unique language, but it is a consequence of mixture of different cultures, which make that when you see something, you have a flavor of the different elements in a cocktail. A good cocktail, you have to recognize what is in it. But at the end, it makes a new taste. And what we are inventing today is a new taste in architecture and design, which has origins, which is a relation very important to materials and a relation with time. Because we are thinking again to be not totally consumeristic, but to invent a thing that can live in the time.
Yeah, I'm putting this all together and looking into the future. This is quite exciting in terms of reinventing and reinvigorating the Italian and Milan economy, which was part of the talk yesterday. Yeah. So how do you see that feeding into the wider story?
This is a place where people have always been mixing up. Milan is sort of a melting pot has been a melting pot for some 2,000 years. The first bishop of Milan was the one who created the identity, was born in Germany from a family coming from Rome. Things have to mix up. It is only by mixing up that we make that wonderful thing which is called European culture. The European culture is a constant phenomenon of creativity based on the capacity of mixing up things. And Milan is a good example in that sense.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much for your time.